guys, this is Anime Ball Z here, and today we're going to be doing the 8th part of What If Deku had a stat leveling quirk. A double upload on the weekend, I promised, and I delivered. I hope you guys are enjoying this What If, and in about a week or two I'm going to start What If Naruto Was a Fox Age Remastered. I mainly did this to remove the major plot hole I had in the What If, which is that Jiraiya wasn't even there the entire time. Who would have given Naruto the 5 elements unseal? There are many questions to ask about this, and I'm going to be answering all of those questions when the first part of that What If comes out. There's nothing much else I want to say in the intro, so without further ado, let's get into the video.
Winter time, all the time, ooh, yeah. Look at the way that I move, swag, disrespectful and I'm rude, okay. I had cocaine in the school.
The smoke clears and Mr. Compress is left still standing. Don't make your attack so obvious next time, Bakugo. Bakugo is surprised that his attack was dodged because he left a literal dent across the ground. Mr. Compress continues to walk to the group and he says, "Come on, you think that's enough to stop me? You think you heroes have what it takes to defeat us villains just because of that blondie All Might?" Bakugo clenches his fist from the provocative comment. Deku instantly notices this and reasons with his rival. Bakugo, don't. Bakugo speeds ahead and leaps into the air, flipping around with his magnificent explosion. He dives down and clenches his right arm, using 10% for the Detroit Smash. His arm glows and purple streams of energy grow across such arm. His fist also glows more than all of the other parts of his arm, indicating the use of his explosions. However, Bakugo hits right into the rocky ground, destroying it on impact. His arm just rips apart and breaks from literally landing on it as well as striking with it. With his arm also stuck, Mr. Compress compresses him into a marble and begins his escape. Deku sees this and shouts, "Run after him!" while raising his finger at the target. Deku begins using static charge and he controls the enhanced electricity into his legs and abs. He speeds ahead of his friends and Todoroki flies forward with his raging flames. Every tree behind him lights up in hot and destructive flames. Dupli arms Fumikage, Uraraka and Tsuyu also run after him. They seem tired and are mainly trying to pace themselves, but Deku is restlessly racing ahead trying to catch him. Todoroki, to try and stop him, reaches out and grids a huge pile of eyes ahead of himself. Mr. Compress flips to the side and falls further into the forest, making some of the future heroes lose track of him for a little bit. No, he won't get Bakugo. Deku runs and carries on running. His steps start to feel like someone is ripping at his quadricep muscles. Every breath is hefty and his lungs feel like they just can't expand enough to fuel him. The only thing keeping him going through this gut-wrenching agony is the will to bring Bakugo back to them. Eventually, Mr. Compress reaches the rendezvous point and randomly sidesteps. As he does this, Deku is hit by powerful blue flames. The tree behind him cloaks in a violent blue flame. The heat behind him puts him through even more discomfort, so he makes a forward roll to escape the suffocating heat. Todoroki appears through the forest and releases a wave of harsh fire. Dabi sees this and smirks. Impressive. He releases his very own flames and easily overpowers Todoroki's own fire. Deku begins healing himself and can barely keep himself still. He is uncontrollably panting and his legs can barely keep him on his own feet. His friends are fighting hard and all he is doing is standing by on the sidelines. He can't let this happen. His own friends could be gone in just a few minutes from now. New quest, save Bakugo. Save your friend/rival in the current bout. Quest rewards, 500 XP. I've never completely controlled my electricity into a single body part, I've just made it more prominent there. If I can control all of the electricity in my body and use it for a strike, it should work. Well, I'd be of normal speed and physical ability in the rest of my body though. He continues with his murmurings and almost gets hit by Dabi's flames. Todoroki puts up a thick ice wall and shouts at Deku to get his attention. "Izuku, we need your help!" As Todoroki says this, he has to take his eyes off Dabi and is launched into a fiery tree. Deku stands and now has a new ability. Electricity flows throughout his entire body and every single trickle of electricity controls into a single arm. He feels the strength in that arm and it almost feels uncontrollable. It feels similar to Ironside Fist, except it's painful and it feels more unstable. However, it feels much more powerful. He begins using Ter's might to add to his physical ability and his muscles also enlarge. He looks around to aim for a certain villain and races past an occupied Dabi to strike Mr. Compress. He leaps forward and strikes directly ahead. The speed of his punch makes it a complete blur to him. He can't even make out where his arm actually is. Due to his constant battle training, he can just calculate where his arm should move to without properly seeing such arm. He lands a strike and it resembles one of Bakugo's suppressed Detroit Smashes. Mr. Compress' mask completely flies off and he breaks his jaw. His skull also cracks and the sclera in one of his eyes is fully punctured. If you don't know what the sclera is, it's just the white part of the eye. He drops to the ground and can barely move. He reaches into his pouch and takes out the marble with his other hand. He drops to both of his knees with a smile on his face and a portal opens directly ahead of him. Why would they be leaving now? Couldn't they just attack him and take the marble back? "I have the marble," Deku announces as loud as he possibly can. Dabi approaches the portal with the marble of Bakugo in his hand. He mouths out it was a decoy before being on his way. Deku turns back and sees his friends, all subdued by the overwhelming power of these impressive villains. Deku hastily looks in his hand and realizes it's just an ordinary marble. A tear then drops into that open hand. He drops down to his hands and knees and feels himself hyperventilating. His eyes glow blue and the current starts to grow around him. No! The shout vibrates through the ground and can be felt in his friend's feet. Nobody replies and just lets Deku let out these violent emotions. How could you reason with him at this point? He's just lost one of his closest friends and he could even become the thing that he hates the most in this world, a villain. Everyone around him is injured and fatigued, including himself. They all put their everything into taking back Bakugo, but they ended up losing anyway. Deku looks down and notices that Mr. Compress is still down by his knees. The only thing he can think of doing is beating him senseless. He raises his arms and strikes down with all his weight and force and continues punching him. Mr. Compress eventually passes out and is on his way to death. To be honest, every strike Deku throws is likely worse than strikes from the likes of Mike Tyson or someone like that. You took my friend away, what makes you think you villains get to do what you want? He punches Mr. Compress and everyone hears a crack in the guy's spine. More hits could cause this guy life-threatening injuries. Even though he is a villain and terrible member of their society, he is a human being. Todoroki goes over to Deku and holds his arm away from punching him again. Stop, Izuku! Deku turns to him with teary blue eyes and is blinded by rage. He shoves Todoroki off him in his superhuman strength, launches his friend right off his feet. Once he sees him hit the ground, it starts to finally come to him, what he's done and what he's been doing. Taking out his violence on a vulnerable person, is he just as bad as them? His eyes stop glowing blue and the slight trickles of electricity fade away from the surface of his skin. His friends are still exhausted but feel even more relieved that they've managed to calm Deku. Since they're all injured, they are healed once found. Deku is clearly the person hurt the most mentally, but physically he seems fine. He just decides to walk out of the hospital and meet the less injured people waiting outside. The only thing fueling him now is the desire to get Bakugo back and make those villains pay for taking Bakugo away. There is nothing but silence, but everyone knows what Deku wants, has to do. The person that feels this the most is Tenya, since he felt the exact same way shortly before. Izuku, don't do this. Don't go down the dark path that I was once on. It will do nothing for you. Deku doesn't take any of it in and says, I don't care. I need to do what's necessary. Tenya throws the same punch at Deku from the cannon, but this time it's caught. Deku catches it and looks his way, confused about what exactly he's doing right now. Just please, don't engulf yourself in this blind darkness. It will do nothing but harm you and waste away at you mentally. These words hit Deku and they hit him hard. The blind darkness is the perfect explanation for how he's feeling. He believes that no one else can deter him from his fate. Now his eyes are open. The rage is still there, but he can see. Time to plan and get Bakugo back in their hands. That night, the friends band together to try and take back Bakugo. They are all given disguises by Yaoyorozu and Deku decides to go with Viking battle uniform. It makes him feel more in character and makes him feel at home. It's almost as if he's supposed to look like this. He has the face paint, spikes, shoulder plates, everything. He also asks for Yaoyorozu to make something else for him, a short hammer. What would you like to call this weapon? Weapon name chosen, Mjolnir. He throws the hammer up and flips it while doing so. Looks good. He swings it and feels much more control. It's lighter and he's gotten much stronger. It's the best thing he could have asked for. The shorter handle also makes it easier for him to control electricity into the metal head. This is going to be lethal. Don't worry, Kachan, we're coming. In the villain lair, Bakugo is completely strapped up to prevent him from leaving. He is definitely a good bit stronger than his canon self, but not by much. He's just lucky he has that athleticism beforehand so he could house one for all with little training. The villains try and reason with him. They give up their somewhat basic and childish reasons for falling down this path. Bakugo doesn't take any of it in and starts to think about how to leave. 100% Troy Smash would destroy the entire building and let him escape, but his arm will be busted until Deku or someone can heal it. Just 10% alone destroyed his arm, so he doesn't want to even think about what 100% may do. 5% is manageable for his athletic body, but it probably won't be enough to get him out of the things tying him down. However, his explosions just might. While the villains are talking, Dabi realizes that he's not listening in the slightest. He finds it a little confusing since they should be his main point of focus right now. Pretty much all of them are talking and he was just attentive to their conversation a few seconds ago. As he thinks this through, Bakugo blasts out from his restraints and says, I'll never be a villain, not with what has been entrusted to me. Only one person in the room breaks apart and understands his comment, Shigaraki. He slowly rises from the explosions and picks up his father's loose hand. It's one for all. This kid is a successor to All Might, just this very thought grinds his gears, however he has just become even more valuable for them. If they can secure one for all on their side, it's a secured win, but they know All Might's will is strong. Bakugo clenches his right fist and grits his teeth in preparation for his attack. Dynamite 20% Detroit Smash. He swings his fist at the floor below them and causes masses of destruction. The floor breaks apart and the different things located in the little apartment break apart too. The windows shatter and Dabi holds Shigaraki up to stop him falling. Bakugo then knocks out Spinner with a 5% Detroit smash to his jaw. As Dabi tries to overwhelm him with his flames, Bakugo spins into the air using his explosions to stay in the air. Once he lands again, he tries to punch Dabi but is grabbed by Mangler, then hit with the flames head on. He flies into a wall and holds his face in agony. Blood drips down his fingers and through the gaps in his fingers. He looks at his hand and can't even see the colour of his skin. In seconds, he passes out onto the broken floor. Spinner is also helped up by Mangler and Shigaraki just smiles from his abilities. Amazing, he says with a maniacal smile plastered across his face. The group see the whole factory as normal and continue their scouting around. However, they hear the explosion from Bakugo and the heroes use this as a chance to breach the apartment. They still capture the villains, but the Noma are released and start fighting the current heroes. Death surrounds the scene. It's a bloodbath filled with corpses and heroes giving their all to face these fiends. However, a single man stands apart from the rest. He wears a wig casing across his head and doesn't seem to be all that muscular. However, he is quite tall. Nobody knows who this is since Deku never got told the story of All For One. However, there is one who got told by Gran Torino. It took some pressing and nagging to get it out of him, but the story was told to Bakugo. He stands through the open hole in the brick apartment and stares down. Fear makes him stand still like a pole. The strongest opponent All Might has ever faced. The strongest enemy that he might have to face in his future. All For One. Deku looks around and decides to make a move. We need to get Bakugo out of there, Deku whispers to his friends. Deku starts controlling electricity into his legs and calculating, if I control electricity into both my legs and leap as hard as I can, I should be able to fly a little, right? If I leap, Bakugo jumps with his one for all and he grabs on, we should get out of it quickly. Kirishima can help the landing with his hardening too. Sudden quest, rescue and escape. The chance is here. Run in and bring your close friend to safety. Quest rewards 250 XP, 2 stat points. His legs start glowing quite brightly and he stands up, showing a bit of his head to a fighting All Might. He catches a glimpse of this during his power struggle with All For One, but he doesn't take much notice. Deku then says, Kirishima, grab on. Bakugo looks at the fight but then sees Deku running out into the open. What is he doing? He asks, while holding his broken arm. Deku then crouches down as much as he can and leaps into the air. Deku says, jump to me with one for all. Kirishima then says, yeah, grab on. Bakugo just shakes his head with a smile on his face and prepares himself. He uses 10% of one for all in his legs and leaps right into the air, also using his explosions to help him increase his airtime. He reaches out with that same arm and grabs onto Kirishima. Luckily his legs aren't broken and he assumes it has something to do with legs just being stronger than arms in general. Tenyo, who is with them, runs as fast as he possibly can across the ground. Deku is definitely impressed with his speed since it rivals his own. Bakugo speeds them up with his explosions and they successfully manage to get Bakugo. However, as a villain tries to stop them, this villain gets taken down by Gran Torino. Both Bakugo and Deku smile when they see this and Bakugo whispers jokingly, you old man. Quest complete, rescue and escape, plus 250 XP, plus 2 stat points. All Might fights hard against All For One and both Deku and Bakugo watch with tears in their eyes. They don't want to see their idol lose to him. All Might still takes the win home and he points to the camera saying, your turn guys. This time Bakugo thinks his message is for him and this is true, however it's meant for both of them. He foresees a new world with 2 powerful heroes. 2 protectors, 2 All Mights. Once Deku sees this, he theorizes something. Many people's healing quirks couldn't heal All Might. It really does look like his powers are fading because of that injury. What if my electricity can heal him? You only talked to me and Bakugo about it for a little bit a while ago, so I don't really know the specifics, but it should work, right? The next time Deku sees All Might, he is meeting up with him and Bakugo. All Might scolds him for getting himself into a dangerous situation, but he understands that he was just trying to do the right thing in his eyes. Deku then takes out his hand and says, can I help with something? All Might says, what is it? I have this new ability to my quirk that gives me the ability to heal people. That's why Bakugo's arm was mostly healed when he went to Recovery Girl. I can try and heal your wound, I just need to circulate electricity into the wound. All Might starts thinking and says, it's not your job to do this, but if you want to try then I'm not stopping you, go ahead. He shows the wound and certainly grosses out Deku. Bakugo doesn't really care at all. He places his hand on the wound and starts pouring as much electricity as he can right into the area. Nothing much happens to start off and nothing visible takes place, but something is certainly happening. They can't really tell if it's working from eyesight alone, but All Might can tell since the wound feels less and less painful by the second. His electricity enters his bloodstream and allows for a prolonged healing, probably for the next few minutes before the electricity's effects dwindle. The wound also looks just a bit better, not that much though. They decide that they should try this every day and see if it has any long-lasting effects on this wound and powers. So that will conclude the 8th part of What If Deku at a stat level in Quirk Remastered. If you guys want to see further parts of this what if, please subscribe and turn on post notifications. If there's anything I can improve on for the next part, please put it into the comments so I can make this what if as great as possible. Just to remind you again, What If Naruto Was a Fox Age Remastered is coming very soon, so you can subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified when the first part of that what if also comes out. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.